Hi, I'm Katie Hay. I'm a yoga teacher and yoga therapist. And today I'm going to lead you through a yoga for runners sequence. So we will be focusing on strengthening the key muscles that you need as a runner, as well as some of the more supportive muscles that help you stay stable and strong when you're running on the trails or the road. We'll also be doing some lengthening and releasing postures that will keep the muscles that get shortened when you're doing the repetitive motion of running a little bit more nimble and released. I have two models here with me today. One is Doug, and he is on the tighter side of the spectrum. He's an ultra runner, he's done some yoga, and he will show you certain variations on postures if that is your body type. Lyle, who is also a runner and a yoga practitioner, is on the more flexible side. And so if that's you, you can take a look at what she's doing and her modifications to see how you can go into some of these stretches a little bit more deeply. Please be mindful not to be bringing up any pain anytime in your body through this whole practice. Right? If there's pain or discomfort, then back out of things. This is something that should be nurturing and supportive and feel good so that you can be the best runner that you can be. Hope you enjoy. So we're going to begin on our backs. So if you will go ahead and lower down onto your back, and we'll start flat laying down. If it's uncomfortable for you to have your legs straight, you can bend your knees and put your feet flat onto the ground instead, which will just help to release the low back a little bit. And as you arrive on your back, just take a moment to get comfortable, to make any little adjustments that are needed in the body. Maybe shifting the shoulders or the head or the hips around and settle in. You can let the eyes close or just rest your gaze on one point above you. And just take these first couple moments to scan through your body, to observe your body. A big part of yoga is being mindful of what is going on in the moment. So you might have past injuries or fear that an injury is coming on, or you might not spend much time observing your body. And so just take a moment to notice places that might be feeling tight, to notice what your current energy level is today, whether it's energized and ready to rock out, or whether you want to take it a little bit easier, maybe take some modifications. Right, make this practice, this yoga, what it is that you need so that when you're out running those miles, your body feels great and refreshed and balanced. So on your back, just take a moment now to check in with your breath. And yoga offers us a way to learn more about taking these big, deep breaths where we learn how to use our lungs to their full capacity to strengthen the diaphragm and other muscles of breathing. And so as you lay here, start by just lengthening out your breath, inhaling deeply and filling up your belly and filling up your ribs and all the way up to your chest, all the way up to the sternum. And then exhale all that air out. When you're breathing out, see if you can really empty everything out so that there's nothing left in there. And once you get to the bottom of that exhale, again, bring in a big deep breath, filling up your belly. Let the ribs expand out to the sides and forward and back into the floor. Let the chest rise, collarbones broaden. And then exhale to let that breath, again, move all the way out. Just emptying out. When you think you're at the bottom of your exhale, you might even squeeze out a little bit more of that air. And then allow, again, a big inhale. Fill up the belly, fill up the ribs, the chest, everything expanding. Let the belly be soft as this inhale occurs. And then exhale again, fully all the way out. So as you move through this practice today, see if you can maintain this long and steady breath. It can be through the nose or the mouth, whatever's comfortable for you. But always being mindful that you take these big, deep breaths. So from here, bend the knees and place the feet flat onto the floor. Right? You're going to walk the feet in pretty close into your hips and let the feet be hip distance apart. And let the arms be down alongside your body. And take a big deep breath in. Really fill up again, belly, ribs, and chest. And exhale all that air out through the nose or the mouth. And then when you inhale, press into the feet and lift the hips up off the floor, lift the low back up off the floor. Maybe even the upper back rises up so that you're up into a bridge pose. And as you hold here, see if you can press the back of your head into the floor. Right? This will help to release, strengthen, and stretch the back of the neck as you engage there. Right? In this shape, your chest is open. Runners often, right, are forward focused. The shoulders can start to get tight and rounded forward. And so in this shape, you're opening all of that. You're using the breath to open across the chest. Good. Exhale to release the upper back, middle back, lower back, and hips all the way to the floor. And then again, inhale, press into the feet, lift the hips, low back, upper back, all the way up. This time also bring the arms up and over your head to the floor above you. If there's props or things in your way, you can move them aside. Right? So reach long through the arms that are lengthened above you and see if you can reach the knees forward so that you're creating length through your whole body. This should feel really good. It should create a little bit of traction in your spine and more space just throughout the whole torso. Maybe even feel this through the legs. Good. As you exhale, release the arms, the back, and the hips all the way back down to the floor. And then hug your knees all the way into your chest. So take a hold of the knees or the shins. And as you hold here, you can just gently rock a little bit side to side on your back. This can feel really nice to massage and release the back. And maintaining that awareness, that mindfulness of the breath. Good. And then let the arms come out now into a T position on the floor. Right? Spread your fingers out wide. See if you can press all of the fingernails down into the ground. And then start to let the knees fall over to the right side, but let them hover just above the ground. So the knees are drawn in toward the chest and then over to the right, but hovering so that you're using the strength of your core to keep them elevated here. Right? See if you can maintain that big breath here, even though you're using a little bit more of the core area of the body. Breathing into the left side of the ribs and the low back. Good, and let the knees come back up to center and then over to the left side and let them just hover. Just pausing here. Again, just giving a little bit of strength, starting to warm up the muscles of the core a little bit. Good, bring the knees back up to center. Interlace your fingers behind your back, behind your head. Good. And then start to lift your chest and your head up. So you're just lifting up into like a little crunch position. So head and shoulders lift up, chin lifting nice and high. Good. See if you can draw the low belly below the belly button in toward the spine as you hold here. And just breathing, again, igniting, turning on, building some fire in the core of the body. These abdominal muscles that are so important for runners. Good. Release the head, shoulders back to the floor. Hug the knees back into the chest and start to rock up and down the length of your spine. So back towards your shoulders and forward to your hips. Just massaging up and down the length of your spine here. A few times. Should feel nice on the back. Good. And then rock yourself all the way up to seated. And now we're going to transition up to standing. Good. And then find your way into a mountain pose. So bring the feet about hip distance apart, arms just down alongside the body. Right? And see if you can lift the chest and the head straight up. So as your feet root down, a little bend in the knees, let the chest rise a little bit taller and the head rise a little bit taller as well. And the palms can face forward. This will help to broaden across the front of the chest. And now as you inhale, let the arms reach up and over your head. And then exhale to fold all the way forward into a forward fold. And we're just going to hang out here for a little while. Right, if you're a little tighter, you're welcome to take 2 blocks. Or if you don't have blocks at home, you can use books or anything that lifts your hand up a little bit. And put your hands up on that support. Bring the floor to you. Right, you can put a little bend in the knees, which will help to release the back a little bit more and lengthen out, creating some traction through the spine. You can also put a little more engagement into the quads, into the front of the thighs. And as you engage those muscles, the muscles in the backs of your legs, your hamstrings, are going to start to release so that they can receive this stretch. Good. You're also allowing the head to completely let go, like it's dead weight just hanging there, which will help to lengthen out the neck, releasing any tension that's held there. Good. From here, bring your hands all the way down to the floor, and step your left foot back so that you're in a lunge. Right? Left foot steps back into a lunge. And just pause here. You can come up onto your fingertips, or again, hands can come up onto blocks, and let the chest lengthen forward. Right? This posture lengthens the front of the left hip, those hip flexors, which is a really important area for everyone, but especially runners who are doing all the repetitive strides where their knees are lifting. Those muscles can get really tight. Good, now plant your hands and step your right foot back into plank pose, which is like the top of a push-up. Right, your shoulders are right over your wrists, the quads are turned on, and the core is turned on. So draw that low belly in and up. Good, now as you exhale, slowly bend the elbows and lower either halfway down or all the way down to your belly. All right, uncurl your toes and lift your head and your chest into a back bend. Right, this can be a cobra, or if you're more experienced and you've done some yoga, maybe you come into an up dog. Good, release the chest and the head forward. Curl the toes under behind you and press straight up into your plank and then back into your downward facing dog, lifting the hips up and back behind you. Take a few deep breaths here. You can inhale deeply and maybe let the exhale come out through your mouth if that feels good. Just letting a sigh go out. Again, strengthening those lungs and those muscles that we use to breathe. Key muscles. And from your downward facing dog, shift back forward into your plank pose. This time, lower down onto your forearms. So you can drop the knees and then the forearms, or just straight to forearms. This is called forearm plank pose. Big strengthener for shoulders, upper body, as well as the core. So low belly's drawn in. Be mindful of where the hips are. If they're too high, see if you can release them down. If they're sagging, put a little more engagement into the core, or maybe you need to drop your knees, and over time you'll build the strength to hold them. Good. Nice. From here, see if you're able to press back up into your plank. So just press right up onto your hands and then lift the hips back to downward facing dog. Up and back behind you. Good. In downward facing dog, hands are shoulder width apart, feet are hip distance apart. It's like an upside down V shape, right? You can kind of play with the length between your hands and your feet. If it feels like it's too far and you're reaching and unstable, just walk your hands in. But you don't want to be so short that you're more in a standing forward fold than a down dog. Good. From your downward facing dog, place your left foot now in between your hands so that you're in a lunge now on the left side. And just hold here. The hands are in line with that front foot, so they're not out in front, but right in line with that front foot. And then let the chest draw forward. Good. And give yourself a few moments, a few breaths here to let those right hip flexors lengthen out. Good. And then exhale to step the right foot forward all the way to the top of the mat. It can be one big step or a few small ones. And find your forward fold again. Good. As you inhale, reach the arms out to the sides and all the way up overhead. Big full body stretch. And then exhale the hands to prayer in the center of the chest. Good. From here, find yourself into a chair pose. So bend the knees and bring the arms up alongside the ears. Right, the feet are hip distance apart. See if you can draw the belly and the ribs in a little bit. And then bring the weight back into the heels of the feet. The weight moves back, and that starts to engage the back of the legs, the glute muscles down the backs of the legs, all strengthening. Right, you can stay here and continue working these muscles, or if you'd like to build strength in the ankle joints, start to shift the weight into the balls of your feet and lift the heels up off of the ground, right? You might feel a little wobble in the ankles, and that's just stability and strength building in this part of the body. Right, this is a great one to practice, especially if you're a trail runner and you're on that uneven trail and you need to build ankle strength. Good. Release the heels down and fold forward all the way back down. Let the head go. Good. As you inhale now, step the left foot back behind you and find a warrior one. So drop the back heel to the ground and bring the arms all the way up alongside the ears. Good. The front knee is bent nice and deeply so it's stacked right on top of the front ankle. And if you look down, the feet are about hip distance apart. So it's not like you're walking on a tightrope, but your feet are spread a little wider beneath you. Okay, those back toes are angled toward the front corner of the mat or even toward the top of the mat. Good. From here, let the front knee straighten. So you're straightening the right knee. And then release the hands behind your back and interlace your fingers. Right, reach the fist down towards your back foot as you lift your chest up. Good. So just holding here for a few moments will help to broaden across the front of the chest. There's all the pec muscles that are in the front of the chest that get tight, especially with all of that running motion with the arms. And so opening it like this just helps them all to lengthen out. Good. As you exhale, now fold forward over your front leg. And leading with the chest, the moment the back starts to round, lift up a little bit. Don't go so low. Good. Your fist can rest on the low back, or you can lift it up and over toward the shoulders. Just be mindful not to lock the elbow joints. This posture is lengthening down the back of that right leg, those hamstrings. It's really important for runners to release. Also strengthener, stability builder. Good. Very slowly use the strength of your core to lift yourself all the way back up and find that warrior one. So bend the front knee and bring the arms back up alongside your ears. Good. Take a big deep breath in, and as you exhale, release the hands all the way down to the floor. Good. Now step back to your three-legged dog. So you're going to send that right leg up and back into the air now, lifting it just as high as is comfortable for you. And holding here, building strength in shoulders and through that right leg. And release the right foot to the floor. Shift forward into your plank pose and hold your plank pose. Knees up or down, your choice. And thighs are on, core is on. And as you exhale, slowly bend the elbows. Keep them hugged in close to the ribs. Lower halfway or all the way down. And then inhale to lift the head and the chest as you uncurl the toes. Good. Exhale to release chest and head forward, maybe into your plank, and then back to downward facing dog. Can also come through hands and knees to make your way back. Good. Take a few deep breaths here. Just giving the body a moment to rest, to reset. Another option here, if you need it, is dropping the knees to the floor into a child's pose. If you feel like you need a little bit of a break, you just bring the knees out wide, the big toes together, the head releases down. Right. We give ourselves these breaks so that the body can integrate and restore in between these flows. So moving on to the second side, if you're in child's pose, go ahead and meet us back in downward facing dog by curling the toes under and lifting the hips up and back behind you. Good. And then finding your way into warrior one on the left side, step the left foot in between your hands. It might take a little wiggling or movement to get it there. And then drop your back heel to the ground and bring the arms up alongside your ears. Right. Again, the front knee is bent right over the front ankle, feet hip distance, and back toes angled forward. Right. See if you can also be aware of the upper body. Let the core be turned on, low belly in, and the shoulders, let them be soft. Right. In yoga, we never want to be going 110%, super engaged. We want to find this balance between engagement, but also allowing the body to be soft and relaxed. Good. Now let the front knee straighten. Right, and bring the hands behind your back. Interlace the fingers. Right, let the chest lift up. Right, you might even lift your gaze up as well toward the ceiling to lengthen through the front of the throat. Good. Keeping this length, lead with the chest as you hinge from the hips and you fold over the front leg. Right, the fist again can rest on the low back or lift up and over toward the head. Now the torso's forward, a lot of the weight is going forward, but see if you can press the back foot down into the ground. The back leg stays engaged. And the breath maintains, it stays steady and strong, just like when you're running and you need to maintain a steady tempo with your breath. You have to continue this nice, long, deep breathing throughout your yoga. Good. Inhale to very slowly rise back up. Bring the arms up alongside your ears. And finding your warrior one once again, bending that front knee. And take a big deep breath in. And as you exhale, release the hands all the way down to the floor. Good. Step the left foot back into your plank pose again. Right? Good. So finding your side or your forearm plank again, drop down to the forearms. Right? One and then the other, knees up or down. Okay? We're going to come into a side forearm plank. So take your right forearm and bring it across your mat in front of you, and then start to shift the weight over into the right foot. You can stack your feet behind you. The left hand can come onto the left hip, or it can reach straight up. Right? You can also drop this left foot out in front of you if you feel like you need a little bit more support. If you want to amp it up even more, then lift the top foot up off of the bottom foot, right? And lengthen out through that lifted leg. Good. And then as gracefully as you can, just move right into the second side. So let the left arm release down, right? Move the forearm so it's going across the mat in front of you. And then shift over into the left side. And some tricky maneuvers there. Good. Right hand either to the right hip or straight up. Hips are lifting and the ribs are lifting. And maybe let the right foot lift up off of the left if you'd like to add a little bit more strength work. If not, that's great too. Building a lot of core work, strength here. Good. Release back down. Find your forearm plank. And then press back up into your plank pose. So one hand and then the other, and then back to downward facing dog. Let the hips lift up and back. You're going to take a big deep breath in here and let that breath move out through the mouth if that feels good. All right, you've built all this heat up, so just let it release out. Letting go of any pent up stress or tension in the body. Good. Good. From your downward facing dog, let the left leg lift up and back because we've missed that earlier. Kind of keep it even. Good. Now here you're really reaching out through the lifted heel. It's not so much about how high you get, but more importantly, finding that length out through this lifted leg and building strength in the muscles in the back of the leg and glutes. Yeah, that's also a nice strengthener for shoulders and arms, which often get neglected for runners. You're going to release the left foot down, and now just to play a little bit, bend your knees, lift up onto your tiptoes, lift your gaze so that you're looking at the front of your mat, and see if you can hop forward this time all the way to the front of your mat, just for fun. Good, and then fold all the way down. And inhale the arms out to the sides and all the way up overhead. And exhale the hands to the center of the chest. And just take a moment, find your balance, a place where you feel centered, steady in the legs. Good. As you inhale, bring the arms out and up overhead. And exhale to fold all the way forward. Good. Inhale to step the left foot back behind you and find a warrior two now. So you're going to drop your back heel to the ground and then cartwheel your arms up into a T position. Shoulders and hips are open, right? The front knee is bent so that it's right on top, stacked on top of that front ankle. Good. See if you can flip your palms up here and let your shoulders release down away from the ears, right? Your biceps start to move back toward the wall behind you. And then just flip your palms over to face the floor once again. Mm-hmm. Good. In this warrior, you're opening the front of that left hip. That should feel really nice and building strength in the front leg. Also building strength in shoulders and arms. Good. Inhale to reverse your warrior. Drop the back hand to the back thigh and reach your right arm up and over your head. This is also called a humble or peaceful warrior. Good. Now as you hold here, the upper body is moving back, but that front knee is still bent nice and deeply over the front ankle. So just bend it a little bit more so that that knee joint is protected and not in stress. Okay, this is a big side stretch to see if you can really breathe into the right side of the ribs. This also will help to lengthen out the right low back. And come back up to your warrior two arms and straighten your front leg, right? Not locking the knee, but just keeping a gentle bend there. Right hand lowers down to the right shin as the left arm moves up into a triangle pose. Now, if you'd like to add a little bit more core work into this posture, instead of bringing the right hand to the shin, you can reach it straight out to the wall in front of you with the palm facing up. Right, the top arm can reach over the head, or you can wrap it behind the back, just finding a place where you're feeling the core engagement, nice and strong. Right, if your hands are facing one another, you could imagine you're holding something in between them, like a big beach ball that you're squeezing, which will help to turn on the shoulders and the arms a little bit more. Good. Very slowly ease yourself back up to stand. Good. Bend that front knee once again into your warrior two, and just pause here for a moment where you find your place of balance and steadiness. Good. Take a big deep breath in, and as you exhale, bring the hands all the way down to the floor. Good. Step back, three-legged dog. Right leg lifts up and back, lengthening long, holding here. Inner thigh lifting up. Good. Good. Release the right foot to the floor. Good. Shift forward to plank pose, holding your plank. Good. And exhale to very slowly, with control, bend the elbows and lower, full or halfway down. And inhale into your back bend. You can always skip this part too and just go to a child's pose or hold down dog. And then exhale to release and either come through a plank or hands and knees to come back to downward facing dog. And take a few deep breaths here, or again, you always have the option to drop the knees into a child's pose and give yourself a little bit more rest and restoration. Good. Good. So moving on to the left side, let the left leg lift up and back, three-legged dog. Good. Bring the knee to the nose and place the left foot in between the hands. And now find your warrior two on the left side. So drop the back heel down, cartwheel the arms up into a T position, and hold here. So front knee bent nice and deeply over the front ankle. Good. Flip the palms to face up. Rotate the biceps to face backward. Shoulders relaxed. And then just flip the hands over. Rotate through the lower arms. Good. Lengthening long, fingertip to fingertip. Good. Reversing your warrior, back hand to the back side, left arm reaching up. You can go straight up or over the head, getting into this nice left side body stretch, left low back stretch. The gaze here can be up at your lifted hand if that feels good for you. Steady breath. And slowly come back to your warrior two. Arms to a T position, and let the front knee straighten now. So both legs are straight. Good. Left hand lowers to left shin, right arm straight up, coming into triangle pose. Okay, so the hand can come down to the thigh, the shin, the floor. It's really going to depend on your body. Again, if you would like to add a little more core work here, you'll take this left arm and reach it straight toward the front of the room, palm facing up. And then the right arm can reach over the head, palms facing each other, like you're holding, again, that big beach ball to strengthen shoulders and arms. Good. Inhale to slowly come back up, warrior two. Bend the front knee. Good. On your next exhale, bring the hands down to the floor. And step your back foot forward all the way to the front of your mat. You can take, again, one big step or a few smaller ones. Good. Inhale the arms out and up overhead. And exhale the hands to heart center. And just take a pause here, a moment. Reconnect the feet into the ground, soft through the knees. Good. So from standing in your mountain pose, we're going to move into some balance work and then some nice deep hip stretches. So inhale the arms out to the sides and up over your head. Exhale to fold all the way back down forward into your forward fold. Good. Now step your left foot back behind you so that you're in a low lunge. You can pop up onto your fingertips and just see if you can find stability and strength in your legs. So that can be found by drawing your thighs together, your knees toward one another. And once you feel steady in the legs, let the arms come all the way up, rising up into a high crescent lunge. Good. Good. And see if you can find balance and stability here. And then drop your gaze to the floor in front of you. Okay, bring the hands onto the hips. And then start to fold over your front thigh. You can stay right here. This can be enough balancing work for some people, or start to shift the weight into the front foot, the right foot, and let the left foot lift up off of the mat behind you. Okay, so you're coming into warrior 3, keeping your gaze on that one point to help with your balance. Good, and see if you can maintain a steady breath here. So even through the intensity of some of these postures, you always want to be aware that the breath is steady and full. And this posture builds strength in the ankle, the stabilizing muscles in the hips, and some of the major muscles through the legs and the hips as well. Good. Envision that high lunge and slowly lower that back foot all the way back to the floor behind you. Let the arms come all the way back up overhead. Good, and then release the hands all the way down to the inside of your front foot. Okay, toe heel the right foot, that front foot, to the outside edge of your mat. And we're going to ease here into what's called a lizard lunge. So this is a pretty intense hip stretch, and there are lots of ways you can vary it to make it feel right for you. So you can leave this back knee up off of the ground, or you can release it to the floor and place a blanket under the knee if you need it for some support, right? Because the floor can be pretty hard there. Good. So with the back knee lifted, you're going to be working more into strengthening the back leg, and with it dropped, you're going to be working more into stretching. You can stay up on your hands, or you can drop down onto your forearms, or you can even bring your forearms down to blocks or books if you have them handy, so that you're somewhere in between. Okay. Be mindful that you're not jamming into the front of that left hip. If it feels like that, then just lift out of that hip a little bit. And then maybe as you hold here, you can close your eyes and see if you can allow the rest of your body to just soften, to release. All right, so you're softening through the shoulders and the jaw. Okay, letting the hips sort of melt into this shape. And you're getting a deep stretch in a few areas. The front of that left hip, certainly, and the outside of the right. Right, and you might feel this in other places too. So we're just going to stay here for another 5 breaths or so. If this one feels really good for you, this is one that can be held for minutes even. It can get really intense, but it can provide a really nice release for the hips. Good. Now, if that back knee is lifted, go ahead and drop it down to the floor. Bring yourself back up onto your hands. And then walk your foot back in between your hands so that the hands are framing the front foot and the foot's in the middle of your mat. From here, start to shift your hips back until they're right over the back knee and straight in your front leg. The hands will walk back as well, right underneath the shoulders. And this is where blocks can also come in handy, underneath your hands, right? That brings the floor up to you so that you're not having to round the back forward and stress into the stretch. So this is going to get into the right hamstrings. Maybe you'll feel it through the back of the knee and into the calf as well. If you want more intensity, there's a few ways to get that. You can draw the front toes towards you more to lengthen the back of the leg. All right, you can fold more over the leg, hinging at the hips. And then if that's still not enough, if you're a naturally flexible person, we all have different range of flexibility. You can wiggle the front heel out in front of you and start to ease more into a full split or somewhere in between a half and a full split, right? Just be careful, be mindful as you do this. The hamstring attachments can get pulled quite easily, and so can the belly of those muscles. And so you just don't want to overdo it, right? Anytime that there's sharp or shooting, intense sensation, that is pain, and we don't want that, right? The stretching sensation might be intense, but no pain. Got a few more breaths here. You can stay here longer, or if you want to move into the outside of that right thigh into more the IT band, which runs from the top of the right hip down to the bottom of the right knee. You'll come back into your half split if you've shifted forward, and then let your right arm lift up into the air so that you're coming into a twist. So the left hand stays on the floor as the right arm lifts up, right? And then see if you can draw that right side of the hip back in space. That'll lengthen down the side of that leg and hopefully provide a nice stretch through the muscles, the tendons, the IT band down the side of the leg. All right. And big deep breaths into that sensation that you might be feeling here. Good. And then release the right hand back down to the ground and start to shift back forward into your lunge. So just bend that front knee, walk the hands forward, curl the back toes under, and then step back into your plank by lifting the knee up and stepping the right foot back. And from here you can flow with that sequence that we've been doing a few times where you lower and find your back bend and come back to down dog. Or if you feel like child's pose or going straight to down dog or more what your body's needing, that is great too. All right. Once you land back in down dog or child's pose, just give yourself a few breaths. You can move through the hips or do anything that feels good to help release that in your body. All right. Yoga is a lot about paying attention to the response of your body as you move through these postures, just like you do in running, and learning more about what your body is able to do, what it needs in any given moment, and then giving that to it. And so from your downward facing dog, we're going to move right into the second side. So step your left foot in between your hands to find that high lunge. So just take your time getting there. Find the stability in the legs first. Once your legs feel strong and stable, then lift the arms and the torso up, stacking them right over the hips. All right. Arms reaching up nice and long, and then find your balance, find your stability here now. Good. Let the gaze drop to the floor in front of you. And bring the hands onto the hips. And then hinge at the hips as you fold and hover over the front thigh. You can start to shift the weight into your warrior 3 now on the left side by lifting the back foot up off of the ground. And you might notice the two sides are a little bit different, and that's okay. Just good information for you to have about your body. And the hands can stay on the hips. They can come to prayer or out in front of you or off to the sides, just placing them in a place that feels good for you. And a few more breaths here. And now envision that high lunge in your mind and slowly release that back foot all the way back behind you. Let the arms come back up overhead, pausing here and refinding balance. Good. As you exhale, release the hands down to the inside of that front foot and toe heel the foot to the outside edge of the mat. Good. Again, now here, this back knee can stay lifted or it can drop down. There's an option to use a blanket. You can use any blanket you might have handy to pad that back knee if it feels like too much to have it on the hard floor. You can stay up on your hands or you can drop down onto your forearms. Right? You can also place forearms on a block for an intermediate level. Good. As you fall into this posture, see if you can just observe the body. Notice the sensations that you're feeling, where you might be feeling this the most, how it changes from side to side. Also notice if you're clenching or holding tension in areas that don't need to be working right now. Right? Maybe the jaw or maybe closing the eyes will help you relax a little bit more into this stretch. And a few more breaths. And give the body time to release and lengthen here. And again, if this feels really good, just stay here. Enjoy it. Good. If that back knee's lifted, go ahead and release it down and then come up onto your hands, excuse me, and walk your foot in between your hands so that you're in your lunge. You can set your blocks aside here. Good. Start to straighten the front leg so that the hips draw back and they're right on top of that back knee stacked. And the hands can come back, and then you can put your hands again up on blocks so that you're not having to round forward so much and you're not stretching too much into the hamstrings. Okay, we don't want to pull or tear any hamstrings. Good. You can remain here to intensify it again, toes towards you, fold deeper, or start to wiggle that front heel or slide that front heel out in front of you a little bit more and ease into more of a full split. All right. Lots of options, so finding the placement that feels best for you to get into the stretch. Good. A few more breaths. And now to take that twist, if you've moved toward that full split, just bring the front foot back in. And this time lift the left arm up toward the sky so that you're coming into a rotation through the core of the body. You can use the muscles in your core to find this rotation through the ribs. Take a look up at your lifted hand and then draw that left hip back in order to stretch down the side of that leg, the IT band, and the other muscles in that area. This is an area that is hard to get into stretch and one that is often neglected. So it's a really good one to incorporate, especially as runners. You're going to release that left hand back down and slowly take your time shifting back forward into your lunge. Good. Curl the back toes under, lift the knee up. You can set your blocks aside and step back again into your plank or down dog or child's pose. Just taking a few breaths to do what feels good for you in your body right here, whether it's lowering down and taking a little flow or just taking a moment to reset. Good. A few more breaths here. Good. And then drop the knees and find child's pose. So the knees come down to the floor. Bring them out nice and wide and bring the big toes together behind you. And then let the hips sink back toward the heels. It might not connect. The hips might not connect fully to the heels, and that's okay. And see if you can allow the head to release toward the floor, or you can always prop it up on a blanket or a block if it doesn't reach. Giving yourself a few moments here to integrate all of that work, giving your body a chance to soak it in. And finding this balance again between engagement and work and rest. From your child's pose, come up to seated, and we'll move into some core work and other strengtheners. So we're going to start with soles of the feet together and the knees apart, and bring your hands onto your shins or your ankles, and sit up nice and tall. So you can press your hips down into the ground, and from there, see if you can lift your chest and your head straight up toward the sky. Good. Draw the elbows in towards your ribs and then start to hinge from the hips, and maybe you fold forward an inch or maybe you go lower, but you want to be mindful that you're not just reaching your head towards your feet, but that you're really moving through the hip joints, right? This will get the stretch into the hip region rather than creating a rounded back. So we want to focus on that. And take a few deep breaths here. If you want more intensity, you can press your elbows into your thighs or into your knees. You can also press the soles of the feet together, and that will turn on the outer thighs, which will help to release the inner thighs. Good. Slowly ease out of this. Lift the head and the chest up. Bring the knees together and place the feet flat onto the ground. The hands come behind you with the fingertips facing forward. Lift your chest up, move your head back. So you can stay right here. If this feels like enough, this is a big chest opener. Or you can press into your feet and your hands and lift your hips up off of the floor into a reverse tabletop. As you hold here, be mindful that the knees aren't splaying wide apart. You can even imagine that there's a block in between your thighs that you're squeezing together. Right? This will engage the inner thighs. Good. Breathe here into the belly, the ribs, and the chest. Fill all the front body up. And feel your glutes, your glute muscles, your buttocks muscles engaging a little bit. Good. Release the hips down to the floor. Keep the hands right where they are to start, and just let your feet lift up off of the floor. Right? You can keep the hands behind you. You can hold on to your thighs, or you can reach the arms straight out in front of you. Right? This is a boat pose. It's a core strengthener. If you want even more, you can straighten your legs up. Right? Or you can move into a more dynamic boat pose where you're lowering the torso and the legs down and then lifting them back together. Right? Moving into just a little bit of a flow of core work. So you can either stay and hold or you can move and flow. Right? Good. Release back down, to feet to the floor, hands behind you. We're going to take that reverse table one more time to release and open the front of the hips again. So lifting those hips up. All right, broadening across the chest. And big deep breaths. Good, and let the hips release back to the ground. Good, moving into a quad stretch. You're going to bring your right leg behind you and this left foot toward the inner right thigh. Okay? So if this is really awkward for you and you find that that right hip is lifting up quite a bit, just take a blanket and sit up on the blanket or put the blanket under the right hip. Okay? You want to let that right hip drop down as much as possible so that the hips are level and the pelvis isn't tilting. Now this might be really intense for you. If it's way too much, you can bring yourself forward instead, right? Or if you're like, not feeling much, I want a little bit more, then you start to draw yourself back. So you walk your hands back behind you and you can lower down as much as feels comfortable for you, right? This should feel really good in the front of that right thigh and up into the right hip area. Good. Maybe close the eyes here, see if you can soften the shoulders, soften the face. And just take some deep, big breaths. Okay. With stretches like this, you can hold them for a while. You can hold this minutes. Right? We won't hold that long here, but if this is one that is really speaking to you, then I'd encourage you to give it a little bit more time. A few more breaths, just allowing the body to receive. And then very slowly, right? You always want to come out of these stretches nice and slowly, especially if you've been holding them a while. Start to lift yourself back up if you've moved back. Right? Little by little. Right? If you can imagine your muscles like a rubber band, if you pull them out tight and then you just release them, then they are going to crunch up again. Right? So we're going to ease them back in. And then very slowly draw that right knee forward. If that's a lot on the knee, bring the legs straight out in front of you. You can release the legs, kind of shake them out. It's really therapeutic for the knee to be compressed like that and then release and have all this nice blood flow enter back in. Okay. Good. Second side. So left leg back this time. Right knee bends so the foot comes to the inner front thigh. And then notice as you set this up, is this side different? Am I much tighter or looser here? Do I need support on this side? Maybe I didn't on the other, but I do here. And you just observe how your body responds. Okay, you can stay upright, you can move forward if you need less sensation, or you can move back. Right? If this pose or any other posture that we do causes pain, right? If this is causing knee pain or other joint pain or muscle pain, then always come out of it. Don't do it. Back off. Right? You're going to come into some deep sensation in yoga, but not pain. We don't want that. Okay? So a few more breaths, just letting yourself bake here for a minute. Good. And then again, slowly release. So if you're all the way back, you'll maybe come up halfway and pause. Right? Releasing yourself out of this, coming up to seated. And then slowly you can even use your hand on your back ankle to draw the leg forward and then release the backs of the knees. Just let them go. You can shake them up and down a little bit or just lengthen down the backs of the legs to let that go. Okay. Good. So from here, making your way onto your back, bend your knees and put your feet on the ground and bring your arms out in front of you. And then very slowly, take your time, use core strength to lower yourself all the way down onto your back. So just rolling the low back first, and then the middle back. Eventually the shoulder blades and upper back, shoulders, and head. You've done the hard work. Now you get to relax. So we're going to release the back a little bit and hips. Draw the knees into the chest. Give yourself a big hug in. You can hold the knees or the shins as you hug in. Maybe rock a little bit side to side on your back, which can feel really nice to release, or make some circles with the knees to massage the back and release the hips and shoulders. And if you're making circles with your knees, just reverse and go the other direction now, switching. And then bring the knees back to center and bring the arms into a T position. Let the knees move to the right side. And unlike at the beginning of our practice tonight, this time just let the knees go all the way to the floor. Now, if they don't quite reach, or if it feels uncomfortable, you can take a blanket or a pillow or anything you have handy and put them under your bottom knee or in between your thighs for a little bit of support. In this posture, you want to really let go. You're not using any engagement in muscles. It's all about allowing gravity to move you into this twist of the spine. You can feel good on the back and the hips and shoulders. Maybe close the eyes. And take some deep breaths here into the ribs. Slowly, again, coming out of this, lift one knee up and then the other. And take a moment in the center. You can kind of reset the hips and uncork them a little bit. When you're ready to move into the second side, allow the knees to come over to the left, the arms again in a T position. If it's comfortable on the neck, turn the gaze over your right shoulder to complete the twist all the way through the spine. Maybe let the eyes close here. Just let the body melt into this shape as much as you can. A few more breaths here. And then let the knees come back into center. You can hug them in again, or take any other movements, positions that you feel like you really need in your body. Anything that you didn't get through this sequence, or you feel like you need to complete this practice. And then when you're ready, you're going to move into your final rest. And it's tempting to skip this, but it's so important to give your body time to rest and integrate all of the work that you've done. So coming into what's called Shavasana or corpse pose, you'll just lay on your back. You can, again, have the knees bent or put some support under the knees if that feels good, or a blanket over the body. Maybe you have an eye pillow or a shirt or a piece of clothing you can put over the eyes to block out the light so that you can really drop into a place of deep rest. So as you move into this place of rest, just let the whole body sink into the ground. Relax through the legs, and the hips and the torso, the shoulders and the arms, the neck and the head. Just let everything go. You can stay here as long as you'd like, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then enjoy the results of your work.